17. The Apostle Paul, on the other hand, speaks of those who sinned without law. He further states that until the law given through Moses sin was in the world, but sin is not charged against anyone when there is no law. Nevertheless, death ruled as king from Adam down to Moses, even over those who had not sinned after the likeness of the transgression by Adam. Row 2. 12. 5. 13, 14. Paul's words are to be understood in context. His earlier statements in this letter to the Romans show that he was comparing those under the law covenant with those outside that covenant, hence not under its law code, while he demonstrated that both classes were sinful. Row 3. 9. During the approximately 2,500 years between Adam's deflection and the giving of the law covenant in 1513 BCE, God had not given mankind any comprehensive code or systematically arranged law that specifically defined sin in all its ramifications and forms. True, he had given certain decrees, such as those given to Noah following the global flood GE 9. 1-7, as well as the covenant of circumcision given to Abraham and his household, including his foreign slaves. GE 17. 9-14. But concerning Israel, the psalmist could say that God is telling his word to Jacob, his regulations and his judicial decisions to Israel. He has not done that way to any other nation. And as for his judicial decisions, they have not known them. PS 147. 19, 20. Compare X 19. 5, 6. D 4. 8. 7. 6, 11. Of the law covenant given Israel it could be said, the man that has done the righteousness of the law will live by it, for perfect adherence to and compliance with the textoi acute miritra longo sin, I 966 inherited law, the law of sin, which wars against righteous tendencies, making slaves of those who do not resist its dominance. Row 6. 12. 7. 22, 23. This moral nature and associated conscience can be seen even in Cain's case. Although God had given no law regarding homicide, by the evasive way Cain responded to God's inquiry, he showed that his conscience condemned him after he murdered Abel. GE 4. 8, 9. Joseph the Hebrew showed God's law in his heart when he responded to the seductive request of Potiphar's wife, saying, "How could I commit this great badness and actually sin against God?" Though God had not specifically condemned adultery, yet Joseph recognized it as wrong, violating God's will for humans as expressed in Eden. GE 39. 7-9. Compare GE 2. 24. Thus, during the patriarchal period from Abraham through the 12 sons of Jacob, the scriptures show men of many races and nations speaking of sins at middle.rth, such as sins against an employer GE 31. 36, against the ruler to whom one is subject GE 40. 1. 41. 9, against a relative GE 42. 22. 43. 9. 50. 17, or simply against a fellow human GE 20. 9. In any case, the one using the term acknowledged thereby a certain relationship with the person against whom the sin was or might be committed and recognized an accompanying responsibility to respect that one's interests or his will and authority, as in the case of a ruler, and not go contrary to them. They thereby showed evidence of moral nature. With the passing of time, nonetheless, sin's mastery over those not serving God grew, so that Paul could speak of the people of the nations as walking in darkness mentally, and alienated from the life that belongs to God. Pastoral moral sense. F4. 17-19. How the law made a sin abound. While man's measure of conscience gave him a certain natural sense of right and wrong, God, by making the law covenant with Israel, now specifically identified sin in its multiple aspects. The mouth of any person descended from God's friends Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who might voice the claim that he was innocent from sin, was thereby stopped and all the world became liable to God for punishment. This was so because the imperfect flesh they inherited from Adam made it impossible for them to be declared righteous before God by works of law, for by law is the accurate knowledge of sin. Row 3. 19, 20. G2. 16. The law spelled out clearly what the full range and scope of sin was, so that, in effect, it caused trespassing and sin to abound, in that so many acts and even attitudes were now identified as sinful. Row 5. 20. 7. 7, 8. Year 3. 19. Compare PS 40. 12. Each sacrifice is continually served to remind those under the law of their sinful state. Heb 10. 1-4, 11 The law by these means acted as a tutor to lead them to Christ, that they might be declared righteous due to faith. Year 3. 22-25. How could sin receive an inducement through God's commandment to Israel? In pointing out that the Mosaic law is not the means for humans to gain a righteous standing before Jehovah God, the Apostle Paul wrote, "When we were in accord with the flesh, the sinful passions that were excited by the law were at work in our members that we should bring forth fruit to death." What, then, shall we say? Is the law sin? Never may that become so. Really, I would not